Everybody, David from Flash by V-Cycle Nut here. Got the Zx4rr all loaded on the dyno. I got the beautiful billet aluminum Graves velocity stacks on the desk. So I'm going to do a baseline run with the stock stacks, and then a run with the Graves stacks so we can see what we get as far as gains under the curve. Stay tuned. We got our stock stack power curve there. I got the air box base off, and looking at the stock velocity stacks compared to the Graves, and you can see the Graves are quite a bit shorter. So I'm going to swap these out, and then we'll do some pulls, make some adjustments, and see where we end up.
The stack's pretty easy to put in the air box. I'm coating both the air box and the stack, the rubber part, liberally with Armor All to make it slide. And then I'm just starting and pushing it in. Like so, and it's on. So I did that 4 times. All 4 rubbers on. I put one of the metal ones on, the short ones on the outside. And again, I got everything coated with Armor All to make it slip, and they really just pop right in. And you can see they're attached pretty good.
So here are the dyno runs comparing the Graves stack to the stock stack. And we can see that we gained almost a horsepower in peak number with the Graves stack, which is quite a bit on this bike. But I want to dig a lot deeper than that. So when we're on the racetrack, we have 2 types of different areas that I really look at. One is how far we want the RPMs to drop, or allow them to drop mid-corner, so that when we're asking to pick up power, what minimal RPM do I want to be at? I've been using around 9,000 RPMs is that with the stock stacks. That won't really change with these stacks. And if we look on up to where we get towards the peak, you got a little place where the stock stacks having a little advantage. You have a place where the Graves stacks have a little advantage. But I'm basically going to call that part of it a wash. But where the Graves stacks really are going to shine is in how far you rev it between shifts. So with the stock stacks, I was aiming for about a 15,500 RPM shift point. And where I come up with that is that on average, every gear is a little different, but the RPMs are going to drop about 3,000 RPMs. And so that gave me a good area under the curve, or the most area under the curve that I could have for an average horsepower. So when I look at that, if I use 15.5 as my shift point, 14,000 as the middle, and 12.5 as the low point, I get an average of about 71.5 horsepower. You can see with the Graves stacks, I've raised the red line up to about 16,000 RPMs, and my new shift point is going to be about 15.7. And if I do the same thing to workout area under the curve, it comes out to about 73.5 horsepower. So that's a full average of 2 horsepower more. Now, I know 2 horsepower doesn't sound like much, but on this bike, 2 horsepower is a fair gain to get, and you're going to get that every time you're shifting through the gear. So I would expect this to make the bike a little bit faster and a few tenths on a lap time. Unfortunately, the highest we can set the red line on there, or the red shift indicator on the dash, is 16,000 RPMs. And you'd say, well, that's great, David, because you just said you're going to set it at 15.7. But like almost every tack in the industry, the tack reads optimistic, and at 16,000 RPM, 16,000 RPMs indicated is really only about 15,000 RPM. So we really need the shift where it's at, the tack says about 16,800 RPMs, which we can't set the shift light that high, but can't win them all. Also, if you look at just the run of the Graves stacks, what an impressively smooth power curve. We got that one little jump right there, about 8,500, but otherwise, that thing's pretty flat. I mean, I know the numbers, we got a peak of almost 30 foot-pounds of torque. Big deal, right? But, man, it really is a nice, flat, good drive off. I'm quite impressed. I've seen a lot bigger motors have a lot worse shaped curves. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hit the subscribe button if you want more motorcycle-related content, and hit that like button if you enjoyed it.